All right, you guys ready to get our bake on?
Always
Today we are talking banana bread.
a classic.
And judging by the mountain of source material you've all sent in, this was a hot topic.
So many banana bread enthusiasts out there. It's definitely a fan favorite for a reason.
Right. Who can resist that smell? Just screams comfort, doesn't it?
Absolutely. It's like a warm hug in bread form.
Okay, so I'm already craving a slice, and we haven't even gotten started yet.
Well, let's not waste any more time then. Let's dive into the science behind what makes a truly great banana bread.
Let's do it. And one of the things that jumped out at me right away from the recipe we're using is the emphasis on using super ripe bananas, like those ones that are practically begging to be baked with.
Right, those brown spotted booties are key.
So what's the deal with those brown spots? Why are they so crucial for banana bread?
It all comes down to the science of ripening. As a banana ripens, the starches inside actually convert to sugar.
Okay, that makes sense. More sugar, sweeter bread.
Yeah.
But I've got to ask, how does that impact the texture?
Good question. Because it's not just about sweetness, it's about structure too. You see, as that sugar develops, a key structural component called pectin starts to break down.
Yeah.
And that softening process, that's what makes those overripe bananas so much easier to mash and blend into a smooth batter.
Oh, that makes so much sense. I used to think any banana would do, but once I started using those really ripe ones, it was a game changer.
It makes a huge difference.
It really does. And it's not just about the mashing, right?
Yeah.
Those super ripe bananas are bringing a lot more moisture to the party.
Exactly. And that extra moisture is key for achieving that soft, tender crumb that we all love in a good banana bread. Plus, let's not forget about the flavor. Those brown spotted bananas have a much more concentrated, intense banana flavor, which translates into a richer tasting bread.
You know what? You've convinced me. From now on, it's brown spots or bust.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so we are all about those brown spotted bananas now.
Absolutely.
But what about the rest of the recipe?
Let's break it down.
Perfect. Now, the first thing I noticed is that this recipe calls for melted butter. Not softened,
Yeah.
melted.
Yeah.
Is there like a real difference or?
Oh, there's a difference.
Yeah.
It really affects the texture.
Yeah.
When you use melted butter, you get that really lovely, soft, almost melt in your mouth crumb.
Okay.
Whereas if you use softened butter, it'll be a little bit more chewy and dense.
So melted butter is classic banana bread texture.
I think so, yeah.
But if you like a little chewier, then go for the softened butter.
Go for it. Yeah, experiment. See what you like.
Okay, love it. All right, what's next?
Next up is baking soda.
Oh, baking soda, right? The
Mhm.
ingredient I always associate with volcanoes.
Right.
But how does it work in banana bread?
So baking soda is what we call a chemical leavener.
Mm.
And it does a really important job. It creates all those airy pockets that make banana bread light and fluffy.
Right, but it needs a little help, right?
It does, yeah. You
Mm.
need some sort of acid to react with.
And that's where those overripe bananas come in.
Exactly. They're our heroes.
They really are the stars of the show.
They provide that perfect amount of acidity to react with the baking soda. And when that reaction happens, it creates carbon dioxide bubbles. And those bubbles, they make the bread rise.
Which is what we want. So does that mean if you overmix the batter, you're basically deflating all those bubbles?
Pretty much. That's why most banana bread recipes will tell you to mix gently, just until everything is combined.
That makes so much sense. No wonder my banana bread sometimes turns out a little dense.
We've all been there.
Okay, so we've got our brown bananas, melted butter, baking soda. What else are we putting in this masterpiece? I know the recipe mentioned some optional mix-ins.
Yeah. So this recipe gives you the option to add in some chopped nuts or chocolate chips.
The classic.
The classics, exactly.
Because who doesn't love a little extra crunch or chocolate in their banana bread?
Exactly. But, don't be afraid to get a little adventurous and experiment with other flavors too.
Like what? What else could we add in there?
Well, spices are always a good option. Cinnamon is a classic pairing with banana.
Oh yeah, love cinnamon.
A little bit of nutmeg can add some warmth.
Okay.
Cardamom can bring in a citrusy, fragrant kind of vibe.
Ooh, I like that.
And if you're feeling really adventurous, a pinch of black pepper can actually enhance the sweetness of the banana.
Black pepper. Now that's a twist.
It sounds strange, but it really works.
Okay, I'm intrigued.
You should try it.
I think I will.
Yeah.
Okay, but what about something besides spices?
You could try adding some dried fruit, like dried cranberries or chopped dates. Those would be delicious.
Oh, yeah.
They add a bit of chewiness, some more sweetness, and they go so well with the banana flavor.
They do.
And if you're all about that texture, you could even try adding a handful of rolled oats to the batter.
Ooh, that would make it nice and hearty.
It would.
So many possibilities.
Right. The recipe is really just a starting point. You can get creative and make it your own.
Love that. Okay, so we've got our base, We got our mix-ins. What about sweetness? I mean, we're already using super ripe bananas, which are naturally sweet. What if you prefer your banana bread on the less sweet side?
That's easy to adjust. You can simply reduce the amount of sugar in the recipe to your liking. I usually suggest starting by cutting back the sugar by about a quarter cup and seeing how you like the sweetness level from there.
That's a great tip. You can always tweak it in future bakes too.
Exactly. It's all about finding what you enjoy the most.
Okay, I'm loving all this talk about flavors and mix-ins, but now I'm kind of nervous about messing things up. Because we've all been there, right? Those banana bread baking fails, the sunken middle, the gummy texture. So how do we avoid those baking disasters?
Oh, I've got you covered. We're about to dive into all the common banana bread pitfalls and how to troubleshoot them like a pro.
Okay, so let's talk troubleshooting.
The fun part,
Right. Because even with the best recipe, sometimes things go wrong in the kitchen.
it happens. Baking is a science after all.
It is. And sometimes it feels like my banana bread has other plans, you know?
I know what you mean.
Like that dreaded sunken middle
Oh,
looks all
man.
perfect in the oven, all puffed up. And then as soon as it comes out,
It deflates.
exactly what causes that?
So a sunken middle often means the bread wasn't completely baked through in the center.
Even if the toothpick comes out clean.
Well, even if the toothpick test says it's done, it's still possible for the very center to be a tiny bit underbaked. And those air pockets we talked about earlier, if they haven't had enough time to fully set, they can collapse as the bread cools.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
So what should we do? Bake it longer.
Longer baking time might be part of the solution. You also want to check that your oven temperature is accurate.
Wait, really? I always just assume my oven is right.
You'd be surprised how many ovens are off by quite a bit.
No way. Okay, so how do I check that?
An oven thermometer is your best bet here. It'll give you an accurate reading and take the guesswork out of your baking.
Okay, oven thermometer, got it. Add it to my shopping list. But let's say the oven temperature is right, and we've done the toothpick test, and it's still a little underbaked. What then?
In that case, you can try tenting the loaf with some foil for the last 10-15 minutes of baking. This will help to prevent the top from browning too quickly while the inside finishes cooking through.
Oh, smart. I'm taking notes here. Okay, what about gummy texture? What causes that?
Gummy texture usually means the bread wasn't allowed to cool completely before you cut into it.
Oh, really? So even after it comes out of the oven, it needs more time.
Exactly. It needs time to cool down completely.
But why? What's happening inside as it cools?
So even when you take the bread out of the oven, there's still residual heat trapped inside. And as the bread cools, that steam has a chance to escape. And that slow release of moisture is actually really important. It helps create that perfect, soft texture. But if you cut into it too soon, you're trapping all that moisture inside.
So patience is key.
Patience is key.
Got it. I can be patient, especially when it means perfect banana bread. Okay, this has been so helpful. I feel like I'm finally ready to conquer my banana bread fears and bake a loaf worthy of those brown-spotted
I
bananas.
think you are. Remember, practice makes perfect. And the most important thing is to have fun with it.
I will. All right, you guys heard it here. Go forth and bake amazing banana bread. We'll be back next time with another deep dive into your favorite recipes and cooking conundrums.